Hello. I think we're started. Happy Friday, everyone. As you guys can see, I have the audacity to not post in a while, and on top of that, I had the audacity to come back and post, and I've got a beard. Yes, I've got a beard, and I've gotten mixed feedback about it. A lot of people I know, they say they like it. A lot of people say they don't like it, as in, like, they display their criticisms, and I've just gotten general creative feedback from it. One of them notably, that I can think of on the top of my head is that I look like a Indian tradie who was rejected and banished from his family because he didn't end up in IT or med. Yeah, that is a fear all us curries have at some point in our lives. Unfortunately, it didn't become a reality for me. I am now, I guess, technically IT. But yeah, that's not the title of this video. What is the title of this video? I don't know. I haven't named it yet, and I think it'll go along the lines of: is it possible to waste time with God's sovereign will? I've never figured out how to make these YouTube titles shorter yet. Hopefully I find a way by the time I post it. So let's dive straight into it. And so what happened essentially is I was at this birthday party, and after the party I wished the birthday girl a happy birthday and ended up driving a mutual friend of ours back home. And this mutual friend of ours, he was a Christian, and I happened to know him growing up, and so I've been able to keep up with the highlights in his life, but we sort of fell out as I didn't see him too often. Now, this is just for context, and what happened on the car ride is that we ended up having a discussion, which he gave two statements that caught me off guard. One I'll talk about in this video, and the other maybe in a future one. And the statement for this video that he said is, there is no such thing as wasting time. This obviously seems like an absurd claim. Spoilers, I conclude after diving a bit deeper that it is indeed an absurd claim, but I do understand how someone like him ended up in a position where that seemed like a reasonable claim. And it goes like this. I'll take you guys through it. He made an unwise decision that he liked in the short term, but it was unwise for the long term. People close to him recognized this decision and pointed it out. Hey, this is unwise. Maybe this is something you shouldn't have done. And then one person came along and said, hey, you're not actually wasting your time because there's no such thing as wasting time, and then presented a perverted view of God's sovereign will as justification for what appeared to be time wasting. And I've made bad decisions in the past, and naturally I can say I have a bias against the people who critique me, and this is something I do not like, and intellectually I shouldn't have, but emotionally all of us have some aspect or some magnitude of emotional response to criticism, and we default side with the people who support our decisions and side against the people who don't and critique it. This is something I'm sure we all face, but let's go back to the topic. And the claim that time wasting is real and using God's sovereign will as justification uses a perverted version of God's sovereign will, and the perversion goes like this: four premises, and one conclusion. First premises is, I spent 8 hours today doom scrolling on TikTok. I didn't actually. This is just to set the stage, you could say. And two, the second premise is, God's sovereign will includes me doom scrolling on TikTok for 8 hours today. 3, everything in God's sovereign will is moral. 4, wasting time is understood to be immoral. And 5, the conclusion, therefore spending 8 hours a day doom scrolling on TikTok is not wasting time. Now let's go through the premises and what the biblical view and what my view is on this. Obviously, to set the scenario, I spent 8 hours today doom scrolling. The second premise is, God's sovereign will includes me doom scrolling on TikTok for 8 hours today. Yes, I agree with that. That is true. 3, everything in God's sovereign will is moral. I disagree with that, and I'll come back to it and explain why in detail. 4, wasting time is understood to be immoral. Yes, that is true. Wasting time essentially is taking a gift from God, which God gives to us with a purpose, time, but we twist and turn it and serve our own desires and reject the purpose for which God has given us this gift of time. It's kind of if I had a broken bike because there's a broken chain and I give you $50, hey, can you go get me this chain? And you come back after half an hour and show me a really cool Bluetooth speaker you bought with the money. I'd be fuming. I gave you $50 to get me a chain, and you got me, what, a Bluetooth speaker? What am I meant to do with this? Similarly, God gives us time to use to serve Him, to love Him, love others, and we abuse it, and we use it for other things. So it's clear that wasting time is understood to be immoral, even from a secular perspective. I don't think you guys are necessarily can claim you feel the liveliest and ready to go on with the rest of your day after scrolling 1 hour on TikTok, Instagram Reels, whatever you abuse your brain on. But going back to that third premise, that everything in God's sovereign will is moral, I strongly disagree with that, and I'll provide some counterexamples. God's sovereign will includes David lusting after Bathsheba so much that David sent Bathsheba's existing husband to the front lines of war, essentially murdering him, and married Bathsheba to fill the empty role of husband. And this also includes Jacob wearing his brother Esau's clothes and covering himself with goat skins to fool his blind father into thinking that he was Esau, so he can have the father's blessing. And for a more modern history example, God's sovereign will also includes Hitler murdering Jews through the Holocaust. These are all things we don't interpret as moral, and these are things that God has made clear that they are immoral. So the assumption that everything in God's sovereign will is moral is immediately thrown out the window. But I can tell how someone arrives at such a premises, and it's as a result of confusing God's sovereign will with God's moral will. These are two separate things, okay? God's moral will is for us all to always reject sin. It was for David to not lust, to not murder Bathsheba's husband. It was for Jacob to not deceive and fool his blind father. And it was for Hitler to not murder Jews. God makes clear his moral will for us to reject sin countless times across the Bible. Now, with this understanding, if God's moral will is all that took place, then we would have a perfect civilization. And if God's moral will is all that took place in the lives of Christians and followers of Christ, they would be serving God in all opportunities to full effect. But the problem is that God's moral will does not take place most of the time. This is where God's sovereign will is relevant, and before I dive into that, I'd like to draw us back to the topic of wasting time. God's moral will for us followers of Christ is to use 100% of our time in service to Him through the way we minister, evangelize, take care of our health, take care of our family, and so on. This includes take care of our health. When I say use 100% of time in service to God, that doesn't mean sacrificing your sleep for street ministry. As we know, as us students know, sacrificing your sleep doesn't translate to 100% efficiency. Yet we still do it. I myself still fall prey to this immaturity of pulling all-nighters. But the point is that there is a way that God's moral will exists for us Christians in the context of using our time. And yeah, that would be through ministry, through service, through feeding the poor, and dressing the naked, all these sorts of things. But unfortunately, the unwise, wasteful, and sinful decisions that you as a Christian make can be exactly what prevents more people from following Christ. It could be your close friend, your family. Therefore, you as a Christian must be strict with your decisions, otherwise because of your decision there will be one less person saved than there could have been. And when do you guys think about that? When you guys refuse to use your time well, it can result in one less person being saved than there could have been. So God's sovereign will is actually what takes place in the world. It's a mixture of God permitting us as sinners to indulge in sin if we choose to. This is what we call free will. And having free will means we have the choice to do evil and to do good, to make moral choices or immoral. I have the choice to wake up tomorrow, catch a train to Central, and throw a brick at a homeless man. Or instead, I could feed him a meal. I have the choice to steal the wallet of a person I meet, or instead get to know them and become friends with them. And as a follower of Christ, I have the choice to spend the next 8 hours losing sleep and brain cells to useless content on my phone, or studying for the upcoming exam so I can work towards a career which will support my family and ministry, as is instructed to us Christians. It doesn't have to be study if you're not a student. Maybe you could start a YouTube channel and convince yourself you'll actually get somewhere with this, but whatever. But from this, we can say that the conclusion that therefore spending 8 hours a day doom scrolling on TikTok is not wasting time is just completely false, thrown out the window. So therefore from this, we simply conclude that the immoral waste of time is a real concept. God lets us waste the time He gifted us because we have a free will and we choose to abuse and steal from God using that free will. Hence why it's included in God's sovereign will. Anyways guys, thanks for listening. Catch you guys around. Ciao.